Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Talk at Elevation. I'm here with Addison and Grace, and today we're excited to introduce Dr. Matt Markel, TEDx speaker, executive leader, and creator of the Anti-Preneur movement. Matt has led 9 and 10-figure companies, built a diverse investment portfolio, and now helps professionals and college athletes turn their careers into true wealth engines. We're so thrilled to have him join Fan Day Nation as a coach and as a leader. But first, we want to talk a little bit about Nico Stones and Fan Day Nation and what they have to offer.
Parents, you know how hard your athlete works and how much it means for them to be seen. Fan Day Nation gives them the confidence, visibility, and support they deserve. Don't let their moment pass by. Give them a future they'll remember forever at fandaynation.com.
Still hunting for the perfect gift this holiday season? Nico Stones has beautiful, bold jewelry for everyone. Chains and bracelets that shine under the tree all year round. Find your sparkle at nicostones.com. Nico Stones, give the gift that wins.
Well, Matt, thank you so much for joining us today. We're so excited to have you on the show and a part of our team now.
Thank you. It's really great to be here. And it's also super awesome to be part of Fan Day Nation. It's a real testament to them how they are putting financial and career education as a key element alongside mindset, alongside sports, alongside branding and marketing and so forth. It's so really, really great on Fan Day Nation for that.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's just dive right in. Can you tell us a little bit about your Anti-Preneur movement, what it is, and how you started this journey?
Sure, absolutely. So it really kind of came about with, if you think of like the journey of my professional career. So when I was growing up, there were two things that were really of value in my household: being working hard and being smart. And we kind of lived with this sort of what I now know as a scarcity mindset. So we were money was something to be hoarded. We didn't have a lot of it. There was a very much a limited view of like how much was out there, and that coupled with the fact that I was pretty bright as a kid, I chose engineering as a career, and so I went into engineering, and because it was safe and it was secure and it paid a good salary, and so this work hard and be smart was something I continued throughout my early career. I went and got my master's, ended up getting my PhD, and went from working at the Air Force Research Lab to Raytheon and some other positions along the way, and really was always trying to be the smartest guy in the room. But then you realize that that's not scalable, right? That things like leadership and more of a systems thinking, that's something that's really scalable. Was involved in a pretty financially devastating divorce, and that kind of just rocked that scarcity mindset even more. And I don't, a lot of people have gone through divorces, but it was really a blow for me, not only from a humiliation standpoint, but from a financial standpoint. I remember I had bought my ex-wife out of the house that we were living in because I wanted to stay living there. It left me in such a tight cash flow situation that I had, no money for furniture. She got almost all the furniture. I had like a recliner and a TV, and everything else just about was milk crates, so that's that's how we live in undergrad, so, and I remember going out for happy hour with the team and sitting around a table talking about our projects and what we were working on. And I don't exactly remember what we were talking about, because the only thing I was doing was the mental math to see if I could have enough money to afford another beer. So, just this really, really scarcity mindset and so forth. Well, I worked through that. But there was still this nagging fear of like, why am I not farther along? I'm making good money still. I was an engineering fellow at Raytheon in Los Angeles, but you still feel like this, for all I've accomplished, I should have more to show for it, right? And, and again, the feeling of like confusion and shame that goes along with that. Then I got invited to join this one private mastermind group. You had to be nominated, you had to be vetted to get in, and I got in, and the people there just looked at money and talked about money the way I talked about things in engineering. They had a fluency to it, and they just had a different, complete mindset. It was a mindset of abundance. It was a mindset of building assets, not just thinking about salary and top line numbers. And this group really just changed how I thought about the world. And so I kind of took some of that back, but I wasn't an entrepreneur. I was still working at this point now in a senior leadership role, a VP or C-suite in different companies. But I changed how I invested. I changed how I approached the financial world like that. But it was kind of weird. I was doing what entrepreneurs do, but as a professional, as someone who worked for somebody else, worked for a corporation. And I realized, like, this seems so alone. This seems so different, but it's really something that we need to be doing. We just don't have the playbook for it. And that's what I decided to do. I was like, what I'm doing, anybody can do, right? It's like, I'm not all that much smarter. I can, there's plenty of people smarter than me, but just this concept of using the skills of entrepreneurs as a professional, as a manager or director or VP or whatever, that's something that we can all do. You don't need to quit your job to go become an entrepreneur. You can do this, what I called at that time, the anti-preneur concept, where you bring those concepts to your professional life. And so that's what I did. So I wrote a book on it. It's called Anti-Preneur, Thrive in Your Career and Achieve Financial Success. It became an Amazon #1 bestseller. And that's what we're leaning forward with the program on now, which is a educational mindset strategy session on both your career and on your financial side.
Yeah.
Wow.
Awesome. Yeah.
That is crazy. That's super awesome. Congratulations on the book. That's huge.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So kind of going back to when you were talking about your VP roles and stuff in the engineering field, what were some of those like bigger leadership lessons you picked up, and how do you think that's like shaped your growth and strategy and transformation with your company?
So I kind of had these core principles, but I didn't call them that at the time. I thought about it over the last few years about, what are the things that I really use to kind of guide how I operate? Sort of like, what's my operating system? And I've done some talks on this, and they're actually in the book. It's what I call my manifesto, and it's 5 key lessons. Number 1 is make the most out of every day. The people that kind of just like phone it in versus the people that are like, really working hard, making the most. They'll stay that extra 10 minutes because they really want to get something done. You know the difference, those who make the most out of every day. Well, your career is built on a series of days, right? So if you make the most out of every day, it's like you're building levels in a brick house. You're building each level next higher. You don't get to be the CEO of a company just because because you have dashing good looks or or a fantastic voice on podcasts. You get it because you were in a leadership role in something else before. So I became a CEO because I had been a president before. I became a president because I had been a vice president before on something. So you build your career by making the most out of every day. So that's number 1. Number 2, always be learning. That's pretty straightforward. But a lot of us, we get to the point where we think like, well, I'm an expert. I don't want to be questioned. I don't want to look like I might not know the answer. Like there's plenty of stuff, I'll tell you, that I don't know the answer for. But I'm learning. So I'll ask questions. That's how we grow. Number 3
things are always
is
changing too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you took the person who knew everything in the world in 1972, how useful would they be today? They wouldn't be able to use an iPhone. They'd be like,
They'd be like, what's COVID?
yeah, what's COVID? Yeah, it's like, what's this internet thing I keep hearing people talk about? And,
They'd be so lost.
Number 3, take advantage of big opportunities. Yes, you build levels day by day, but there are times when the door opens for something much bigger. For me, it was leaving a small town in Florida to join a very large defense company in Los Angeles, moving from a small city to LA, which is, pretty big.
Bigger.
Yeah. And then leaving defense to go into the self-driving car industry, to go into tech up in Silicon Valley. So there's all these different big opportunities that come up. So take advantage of those when those show up. Number 4 is always exceed expectations. And then number 5 is, when you think about it, we're all in this planet together. So never pass up an opportunity to be kind or to lift someone else up. So that's it. That's my five aspects of my manifesto.
Love that.
Perfect.
Awesome, Matt. You've talked about openly dealing with financial fear when you were younger. Can you talk about that chapter of your life and how did you work through that scarcity mindset?
Yeah, it was tough, the not being able to afford that second beer. I think I actually did buy a second beer that night. But the milk crate furniture, that was true. That's a true story. But here's the deal. You can be in tough situations and not have the scarcity mindset. So really it's being around the people that show you that there's a better way, listening to the people that tell you, like, there's going to be more than enough. You don't have to be hoarding things. Scarcity mindset is survival mindset, right? But we're meant to do so much more than survive, right? We're meant to thrive. Thriving is generous. Thriving means there's more than enough to go around. And it's building that mindset into everything that you do. You overcome the cash situation a lot of times before you overcome the mindset situation. So you have to really work that mindset. Hang around with the people that believe the same way, that believe that way. Don't hang around with scarcity people. Read the right books. Read the books on like Think and Grow Rich. Read the books on like psycho-cybernetics that talk about how you program your mind affects what you see and what you can achieve.
Wow.
Right, those Debbie Downers, they'll ruin it for everyone.
They'll get you.
Exactly. They say you're the average of the 5 people you hang around with, right?
Right.
So look who you hang around with. Are those people who are growing in their careers? Are those people who lift you up every day? Are those people that you're happy that you feel more energy when you're around? Or is it you with them and it's it's the pity party or the whining session or whatever? So yeah, if you're around those people, they bring your average down. So don't let them bring your average down.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. Yeah. Got to make some new friends.
Yeah.
Exactly.
For people who grew up with the same kind of financial uncertainty, especially like college athletes, even professionals who don't know what their next step in their career is, what practical steps, I know there's a lot of steps to go through, but that you recommend for building confidence, stability, and long-term financial security?
Yeah. Number one, don't abdicate your financial responsibility. You have to own that plan. You can't say, oh, my financial advisor's got that, or my mom's handling my money, or whatever. You have to be in control of that plan. You may not be the one who implements every step of it, but you have to be the one who understands it, who's the captain of that ship. So with that, you have to have a plan. You can't just say like, I think I need to be in crypto, or I think I should be in more real estate. Well, if your portfolio is all in private equity already and you take on more crypto, you're just adding in more speculative investments, right? If everything's in gold, like I think I should be in more gold. Well, really, how are you structuring your portfolio? Do you have a balance of safe investments and speculative investments? Do you have investments that are designed to grow over time? Do you have the right diversification in there? And that all sounds straightforward, but there's some details to it. So the next thing I'd recommend is find a Sherpa. Find someone that can help you along the way. That's a few steps ahead of you. You can ask some basic questions to. Because you're going to look dumb when you first start. I look dumb when I first start. It's like, why is this here? Well, okay, that's because we do this for tax reasons. Or why don't we just put all our money in crypto? Well, here's what happens when it goes down 40%. You don't want you'll be jumping off the roof if you see your portfolio drop by 40%. So, so find a Sherpa along the way. That's one of the things I teach in the Anti-Preneur program a lot. Is like, find a Sherpa that can help you along the way. Someone that'll take the time to explain with you, that'll tell you when you're being foolish, and tell you basically you can do this if you want, but I wouldn't, or I would, or whatever. So the other thing is like start small, right? Don't take your entire portfolio and this is not Vegas. You're not going to just like put it on black. Put it all on black or black 7 or whatever. So don't do that. Start small in this, so smaller, diversified investments while you gain the experience from it. Because not only will you gain financially from them, assuming that the investment pays off, but you'll gain from the knowledge of that as well.
Yeah.
Well said. Well said. You've talked before about the salary mindset versus the wealth mindset. How do you explain the difference, and why is making that shift so important to long-term success?
So would you rather have a business that brings in $1 million a year at 5% margin, or a business that brings in 300 grand at 20% margin? It's the second one, right?
Yeah.
Because
Good job.
in business we talk about like top line numbers. That's revenue, right? That's like, so the business that brings in $1 million, that's their top line number. But if they're operating at like a 5% net margin, that means their profit is like 50 grand, right? So they brought in $1 million, but their profit's only like 50 grand. The $300,000 business that brings in 20% margin, their profit is 60 grand. So it's actually 10 grand more. So what happens though is we get all focused about, I'm $1 million business, I'm $1 million business. Well, that's just like people that get so infatuated with their salary. Like, I want to make 100 grand this year. I want to make 150, or I'm going to do, this is the year I break $250,000 in salary. But that's an important metric, but we put far too much importance on it. Really, the number we should be looking at is like, what are the assets we're making with that? So in business terms, it's like, what's your profit? What's your bottom line number? So I try to get people out of the salary mindset where they're thinking just about that top line number, and instead thinking about, what are you doing with it? With that 100 grand, 200 grand, 300 grand, whatever your salary is, what assets have you accumulated with that? What are you spending that money on? If it's blowing it on, vacation after vacation and car after car, whatever, then there's not much to show for it at the end of the day. You're that $1 million business that has 50 grand at the end of the year. But instead, look at like no matter what your salary is, yes, it's good to have more, but focus on what you're doing with it. So thinking about creating assets, not just focusing on the salary number.
Yeah.
A lot of times when I was telling this to someone the other day, when we think about, okay, it's the end of year time, a lot of people are getting raises, or so they're getting their yearly raise and new salary for next year. How often have you heard somebody say, now with this raise, I can afford to XXX, right? I can afford to whatever, right? We've all heard that.
With the pool.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I can do that. Now, you've spent that money before it even showed up in your paycheck. Already spent, right? He's like, now I can afford to, but already mentally spent. Now, are you paying yourself first with that? Or are you paying the vacation resort? Are you paying the pool guy? Whatever. So we're not paying ourselves first on that. We're paying somebody else. Instead, think of like, okay, with that raise, what can I do? What assets can I create? What assets can I accumulate such that now I have a portfolio that's continuing to grow and can be throwing off cash that can basically be buying a much bigger pool someday.
Right.
I guess my question for you is, how do you maintain a balance between the two? Because you still got to go on vacation to enjoy things, and concerts are fun here and there. So how do you kind of balance what goes where?
So you do everything with the mindset, and that's spot on, right? Of course, you can't just like, well, I'm gonna live with milk crate furniture and one beer. No vacations ever. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Because what is that also? That's also scarcity mindset. But it's the concept of paying yourself first, right? Knowing what you're going to do on the wealth accumulation side, and doing that before you do the other things. Because what happens is a lot of times we'll say like, well, I want to do this vacation, I want to do this pool, and I want to do this whatever, and I need some new jeans, and I want to, there's a new streaming service I better get because I don't have enough of them already. Sorry, personal story there. It's we still have Peacock somehow, and I think we've canceled it 4 times a night. I'm still paying for it. That's
I don't know. I feel like I'm paying for everything twice too.
Yeah.
And then Netflix just gets more and more expensive and adds.
Yeah, exactly.
So.
But pay yourself first, and then take care of your wealth first, and then figure out what to do with the rest, as opposed to whatever's left over after all those things and the Netflixes and the 2 Netflixes and the Disney and Peacock or whatever. Then figure out, well, I got about $30 left. Let's see, what kind of assets can I buy for $30? Well, probably not a whole lot. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
YouTube TV is taking my money every month.
Because it's all about being in control of the choices, right? But if you factor in like take care of your wealth first, that's a choice that you have to make, right? But I think by doing that choice, you'll be a lot better off.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yes. Could you talk a bit about your program and how it works? What do you walk people through and what questions do you ask them? And how does it lead them to a better financial future?
When we think about the program and the people that are going through it, they're kind of like, it typically come in with like these four pain points. Some have all four, some have three out of the four, whatever. But the one is they're feeling like they're falling behind, right? Or they're missing out, or they're really worried about retirement. 70% of Gen Xers, I'm a Gen Xer, 70% of Gen Xers and 2 out of 3 millennials are really worried about retirement. Or they're sort of like stuck in their career, they can't advance, they feel like they've plateaued, or they're frustrated, because they're earning good money, but they have nothing to show for it, right? They're the people that have 18 streaming services and a pool and and a bunch of vacations. So the first thing we do is we have to look at the mindset. We look at the and by the way, I have a pool, so and we go on vacation, so it's not like those are bad things, but it's so we look at mindset. We address scarcity and abundance, those things that we talked about earlier. We talk about career myths, that you can have any career you want as long as you work hard, which just is not true. You need to know the concept of networking. You need to know the concept of how to work on things that people value. The next myth is that you can't be wealthy if you're working for someone else. That's also just not true. There's I've never been an entrepreneur in my life, and I'm doing okay. And other people that are more famous, like Tim Cook of Apple, he's an employee. Mary Barra of General Motors, she's an employee. So that myth is not true. And the third one is like your standard retirement plan, your 401k plan, that's going to get you to the wealth level you want. So we talk about those myths. And then we focus on this concept of the duality of career development and financial development, and the very, very important relationship between the two. Because you can't, if you have one without the other, it's like a bicycle with only one pedal, right? That's the worst bicycle ever. You go down and it's like, then what do you do? It's like, so you make it like a, eighth of a turn of the wheel. So, but with the two pedals, the career, which provides the joy, the validation, as well as the financial fuel for the financial investing side. The financial investing side allows you to continue to grow assets, which allows you flexibility in your career. When you get to the point where your income, where your investments are throwing off enough cash to cover all your expenses, you're not locked into that particular career or that particular employer. You could go just do something without pay if you wanted to. So those things really work together. And we look at the numbers financially. I've got what I call the finance trifecta, which is a balance sheet, a cash flow analysis, and a look at asset protection. We dive into their career, a detailed look at that, and we help them create their own manifesto, as well as developing a 24-hour and a 30-day plan for developing the right connections within their company to get ahead. From a financial plan, we need to kind of look at where they are now and where they're trying to get to. There's a document format that I use to capture what your financial goals are. With this concept of conscious sacrifice, right? If you decide not to do the pool this year, it's not just like, oh, woe is me. You do that because you're putting money in something that's going to grow to be able to afford a pool at a much bigger house someday. So it's just conscious sacrifice as opposed to just sacrifice. And then finally, how to put it all together into action. I teach my goal setting process, how to deal with blockers along the way, and so forth. So that's kind of like the overview of the program.
Specifically, like when you talk about building these assets, can you give an example of how you did something or what people should do when they get that pay raise, and what is their smartest way to go about it, or a couple of examples, whether, you're a professional college athlete or just working a 9 to 5?
Yeah. So again, think of these two pedals on the bike, your career and because that's the fuel, that your income is the fuel. Definitely live below your means. Almost everything in everyone who's been successful financially that didn't win the lottery is basically, gets a handle on expenses, lives below their means, invests along the way, and does some concept of asset protection where they don't lose what they've accumulated. It's kind of the basic stones along the way. And again, pay yourself first. That is the biggest thing to think through, is like, pay yourself first. It's easy to think of like, what are your expenses? Oh, I got the cable bill, I got the mortgage or the rent. I've got you list all these other things. Well, the first thing she'd be saying is like, I take, pick a number, $2,000 a month, and that goes into my wealth accumulation account. And then I pay my mortgage, and then I pay my bills, and then I pay my whatever. So the concept of pay yourself first. I had a guest on my show recently. It talks about even something as simple as making your paycheck go into your savings account. Okay. Now this is a mental trick. There's no interest or compounded or anything on this. It's not like some, funny math or anything like that. But the simple trick of putting your paycheck into your savings account and then having to move the money out of that in your checking account to pay the bills, or pay the Starbucks or whatever, that forces you to realize like, okay, this is my money I am now spending to do this. And it came from this account that had a pretty decent sized balance in it. That balance is going to go down if I buy this. So do I really, really want to buy this? It's a mental trick, but in his success, it's been hugely successful for people.
Yeah.
That's huge. I actually do that right now.
Me too.
Then it always keeps me aware of what I got going on, and
Yeah.
it's a good strat.
Except pulling from the savings is a little tough sometimes.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
It forces you
I'm
to,
learning
though.
now. Yeah.
Yeah, it forces you to basically say, do I want to spend this money on it?
Yeah. But it's also nice to have that savings, and then you have that to fall back on if anything gets tough. So,
Yep.
True. So, Matt, you teach people how to turn their careers into real wealth engines. What opportunities do most professionals overlook in their day-to-day jobs that could help them with their financial growth?
So in almost all situations in your career, more money comes through increased responsibility, right? The more responsibility you can show, the more typically the higher you'll be compensated for that. So don't view this as a job. I know a lot of the much younger people today, they're like, oh, this job, whatever, right? Think of it as a career. Visualize the career that you want and make that come to life. Think about I use the expression of being a pro baseball player a lot, right? When you're a pro baseball player, you're not phoning it in. Or at least you're not playing in the majors very long if you're phoning it in, right? You're going to be riding pine. You're going to be back in the minors. So really view this as a career and play like hell for the team that you're on. Now, if later you get traded, or laid off, or you decide that you want to become a free agent and go work for somebody else, you can always do that, but play like heck for the team that you're on. So think of it like a pro baseball player. The people that have I come in, I do my job, I come home, those are not going to be the people that really rise up through the career or don't rise up at the same rate. They'll be the ones that are like getting the promotion that you got. You get a promotion now, they might get to that same level 5 years from now, right? So their career will never hit the same levels that yours will if you really lean hard into it. And then avoid getting stuck. A lot of times people get stuck in their careers. That could be because they don't have the right amount of humility. I always say that your humility must exceed your ability, right? So however good you are, you must be that good and that much and more humble, because it makes you approachable. It makes you the person that people want to have come in and solve their problems. If you're a jerk store on things, people aren't going to want to work with you. But they're going to be like, if they have to work with you, it's going to be very transactional, and it's going to be as soon as they can, they're going to get out of that relationship. It could be like you're not working on the right areas, the right things that are valuable, or that you don't have a good attitude, or that you're thinking too parochially in your career instead of thinking about the broader picture. Think about what your boss has to think about. When I was a CEO, I told my executives that each of you you're not helping me solve these big company problems because you're like the governor of your own little individual territory, right? What I need you to do is pretend like you're on the board of directors for the company. Board of directors doesn't think about a narrow view of things. They think about the company holistically. Their job is to make the company successful, not engineering or HR or sales. So don't be like the governor of your little the state of engineering or the state of sales or the state of human resources or the state of supply chain or whatever. Don't be like the governor of that. Be like on the board of directors. And then the last thing I'd say is like, whatever you do, try to be the very, very best at it. So who's the first person to fly solo across the Atlantic? Charles Lindbergh. Who was the second one? Nobody knows. No one knows. So be the best at it. Work really, really hard. Be the best at it. And then that's basically how you do that, you'll turn your career into a wealth engine.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. You are now coaching college athletes as they navigate NIL deals. What inspired you to... Sorry, can I retry that?
Yeah. Sure.
Words. Alrighty. You are now coaching college athletes on navigating NIL deals. What inspired you to get into that world, and what do these young earners need most to manage their money?
So when you look at kind of like the numbers across our country today from like a financial standpoint, they're really pretty daunting. So we have a $7 trillion deficit in retirement savings in our country today. Okay, $7 trillion. So to put that in perspective, that's more than the United States federal government spent in 2024. So if we took a whole year of government spending and did nothing with it but try to shore up the deficit we have in retirement savings, we still wouldn't quite be there. We'd be close, but we'd still be about $200 billion off. So we've got to do something different in our financial situation today. And starting with the youth, starting with the athletes, that's the way to go. We also, just another fact, just throw that out there, the median net worth for people that are 55 to 64 today. So median means half of the people have less than this amount, half the people have more than this amount. Median net worth, take a guess at what that is. For like 60-year-olds, how much is like a 60-year-old been working for years and years? What do you think their net worth is?
Like 1.2 million.
Yeah, a couple million.
Couple million. 365 million. No, $1,000. It's 365 grand. So it means half of those between 55 and 64 have less net worth than 365,000.
Wow.
So here's the deal. So when we think about the athletes and the youth that get a windfall of money like this, it's a great head start. It's like an inheritance, right? Somebody gets an inheritance, right? So if you think back even to like the stories of the prodigal son in Luke in the Bible, what's the message of that? There's many messages in that parable, but one of them was like, don't squander the money, right? So be smart with this. You think about it. If you have, whatever that money is, let's say it's 100 grand or so, if you put in an investment that pays 10% a year, in 25 years, that will grown to 11 times the initial amount. So if you put 100 grand in, that'll grow to about 1.1 million in 25 years. Or you think about investing, $1,000 a month at a 9% return. In 20 years, you have about $750,000. So so basically using that smartly, as opposed to squandering it on things. That's the key message that we want to have with that. And then now, what does smartly look like? Is it all crypto? Or is it all bonds? Well, I think it's the concept of developing a portfolio that is balanced across the board, maintaining liquidity, which is just so important. As we see things in our economy that are going to be going forward now, there's going to be tremendous opportunities to find things at a substantial discount because you see more and more turbulence in the stock market. We call the thing we track is the VIX, or the volatility indicator. You see more and more of that. I was just reading some articles before this on how we expect certain positions to drop here even after their earnings report. So if you've got liquidity and you've got some extra cash, and you can take advantage of those deals. So balancing safe and speculative investments is the smart thing to do. And then, because that's what it's just gonna be the smart play with that, as opposed to, wow, I got 100 grand. Let's see. I think I need a new car, and I think I need, I don't know, I guess I need some clothes, and then it's gone.
Don't forget about the pool.
And that pool. Well, actually, if you got 100 grand, that may just be for the pool, depending on where you live. So
That's true. Depending on what pool you get.
You might want a kiddie pool instead.
I know we've talked about before kind of the difference between different athletes in college that are getting these NIL deals. You have football players who are making way more than golf players. And how do you manage like that financially if you're only getting, $50,000 or whatever the whole year? How do you manage that instead of these bigger athletes who are making so much more?
So play your own game, right? Don't look at somebody else. You can always find a situation where somebody gets something more than you, right? So run your own race, play your own game. If you get 50 grand for playing golf, it's 50 grand more than somebody who's just studying engineering.
Yep.
Right? Or 50 grand more than somebody who doesn't, who didn't make the team or whatever. So run your own race. Do, if whatever that is, 50 grand, 100 grand, $25, 2.5 million, whatever it is, invest that smartly. Be smart with that. Be smart with your money, because it's a kickstart to your finances, no matter what it is.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
For sure. So what does partnering with Fan Day Nation mean to you both personally and professionally? And how did you know that was the right fit to expand your mission?
So I kind of love the mission that Fan Day is doing, but even more than that, I love the people, because there's a lot of people that are getting into this space now. We see so much of, the branding and the marketing and so forth. There's going to be a lot of people in this space, but most of them don't have the expertise that Fan Day has. And I think that's one of the things that sets you apart. The other thing is we're really driven by a sense of purpose and mission, not just money, right? Businesses have to make money, but it's this mission that drives us. So like I've been in the self-driving car space. I've seen companies that are very much driven by the concept of safety, right? Waymo, where I was the head of radar, very much driven by safety, because we want this product to be safe. People are putting their lives in it. That's that more than bringing in money is the most important thing. And then I've seen others, because I was pretty well connected in the industry, that are more about, we're going to make a lot of money. We're gonna really work the financial aspect of this, and the product may be a little janky, but we're going to get it out to the market quicker. We saw some of that with Tesla. Even that they were putting stuff out there that people were missing. They weren't reading the fine print on how to use it, and it ended up. Some people actually lost their life there. So it's the difference of are you trying to make a buck, or are you really driven by the mission? And that's what I liked about Fan Day, is it seems like everybody I've met there is driven by the mission.
Mm-hmm. Yes, for sure.
Awesome, Matt. And for our last question, how do you want to be remembered?
That's a great question. I think as we think about the concepts of legacy and impact, I think a lot about impact, which is working on things that work towards the betterment of society, that help up level us as a people. And whether I'm remembered by millions of people for helping to do that, or just a few, that's less important than just doing the work to make that happen.
Yeah.
Well said. That. Yeah. Well, Matt, thank you so much for joining us today. We're so excited to have you part of the Fan Day Nation family and just helping our community build financial security and long-term success. Where can people find you and your program to get started if they're interested in this financial security?
Absolutely. So you find me on LinkedIn, Matt Markel on LinkedIn. That's a social media platform I'm the most active at, or most active on. And then if you go to antipreneur.com, anti-preneur, preneur.com, then there's a sign up page there. You'll see you'll be able to get our free digital magazine, weekly digital magazine, which has one tip to help you thrive in your career and one to help you achieve financial success. And then soon there'll be links on that to our online program where you can sign up on School and SKOOL, the Alex Hormozi's platform. And basically the program will be for free, and then we'll have some higher ticket items on there as well to basically help people through it if you want somebody to help coach you through it. So LinkedIn and anti-preneur.com.
Awesome. Well, we're so excited to have you part of the team, and it was great talking with you today.
Awesome. You all have a wonderful night. Thanks a bunch.
Thank you.
You too.
Bye.
Thank you.